The Beacon, celebrating when God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable.
Hey, well, greetings, everybody. That catchy little jingle means you've tuned into The Beacon, and we are so glad that you are listening in today. My name is Steve Woods. I serve as one of the hosts of The Beacon, where we get together on a weekly basis and we celebrate ways in which God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable. Whether you're listening to us on 960 The Patriot, or you're listening in your car, on the treadmill, through podcasts, we're just so grateful that you tuned in today, and we're really honored to have some special guests. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Jeff Blake. Jeff, tell us who we have on the program today, please.
You bet, Steve. Good morning, everyone. This morning is a really incredible episode, and you get to listen into an amazing conversation with friends and colleagues. And again, Steve, as you celebrate on this show week after week, we celebrate when God uses the unexpected to do the unexplainable. And probably 5-6 years ago, I had a chance to meet my good friend Jordan Francis, and was started as I think email communication between us both, and then you ended up speaking in a senior chapel on speaking into kids making the next step in life. And then from there, the journey unfolded. And Jordan, every time I see you and John and one of your colleagues and the fellow Real Talkers, you inspire us here at Phoenix Christian. And so it's our pleasure and joy this morning to introduce Jordan Francis and Alex Martinez, two members of the Real Talk organization. Jordan and Alex, welcome.
Man, grateful to be here as always. Love PC. Just put the kids in PC, so you know we're here now. You ain't getting rid of us, right? Yeah, man. Wanted to introduce Alex. Alex is one of the guys that I've had the privilege of walking with since we started this whole Real Talk journey, and makes me smile. Is a Gen Zer. He's got incredible insight, incredible passion. So I'm just grateful that we get to journey in life together. Appreciate you, Alex.
Hey guys, how's it going? Glad to be here. Excited for this.
We're glad to have you. So Jordan, give us an overview. What is Real Talk? And when we engage in Real Talk, why should we be snapping our fingers?
Right, man, you're giving me flashbacks. We're just basically a ministry or organization that's having these deep, meaningful conversations with young people. And the whole goal behind that is to create a safe space for them to engage, and then the gospel to be brought to bear on whatever issue is that we're talking through. And so the reason why we're snapping our fingers is because we're having that real talk, right? And that's something that people will say during the course of the conversation, yo, that's real talk. And so that's kind of how the name actually came to be in the first place. And so, you know, when you're having that real, raw, authentic conversation and people are saying things really from their heart, from deep in their soul, you know, there's that natural response. There's that everybody feels it, right? There's that language that comes when you just speak and you understand something mentally, but then there's when people talk to you and you feel what it is that they're saying, and it's like a part of their story and it connects with your story and you understand each other on a level that humans can go to. That's what we're looking for. And then in that space, we're also looking to engage God there as well and ask the question, well, where is he while I'm feeling these things? Where is he while I'm thinking these things? Where is he while these things are happening in our world? Because Gen Z wants to know why, right? They want to know why. And so we have to be able to answer the why questions. Or if we can't answer the why questions, we have to be able to enter into that why with them and just be present. And ultimately, that is what Christ did for us. He's present. He enters in.
You know, Jordan, one of the amazing things, I'm not sure if you caught last week's episode, but we had Hope Responders on, and the whole show was focused on where is God? And it was another organization, similar passion and pursuits, reaching out with different folks, meeting people in crisis and trauma in their lives. Where is God? You carry the question out in a similar fashion, but you go out not only into a Christian school like Phoenix Christian, but you're also out in the public schools.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for us, the public school space is an incredible space to be, and just to sit with kids and be present. And I think one of the things that we've been able to do is to have controversial conversations in a non-controversial way. And the reason for that is because we have conversations. We listen to people. We don't just talk at them. We talk about things together. And so when that happens, people don't feel like you're trying to get them to believe something. They don't feel like you're trying to get them to go in a particular direction, but they feel like we're on a journey together. And funnily enough, and Alex, you can speak into this, Gen Z wants to do stuff together. They want to collaborate. And so if you can collaborate with them in conversation, if it can be a mutual thing where you guys are coming together to figure things out, they don't feel pushed around. And so in the public school system, those kids are wanting that too. And so we want to provide that for them. Any thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, I think you make a great point, man. I think these students, they want to be able to take ownership of something. A lot of the times for them, it's difficult to take ownership of something because most of the time, you know, in their classes, you know, their teachers are teaching them, right? Their parents are telling them what to do. They even, you know, even in sports teams, right? Nowadays, you know, maybe their coaches are telling them exactly what to do, but when they come into a space where they can lead or feel like they're leading, it really just brings them out of their shell more. Those kids that feel a bit insecure, those kids that feel like they, you know, those kids that have trust issues because they can say whatever they want and they have the power to lead the conversation wherever they want. They feel more comfortable talking about these issues and are easily more open to listening to you if you listen to them first.
That's pretty amazing. I just want to add, as an educator, it's far too easy in the classroom for a passive environment to exist. We have adults speaking at kids all the time.
Yeah.
You guys are a breath of fresh air and fresh water for what education needs, and an opportunity for the student, the learner, in this case, young people interested in God, where is God, to work out those questions and let them share their own experiences. So Jordan, Alex is a great example. You work with a team of folks helping you do this.
Yeah, for sure. There's about 6 or 7 of us right now, and then a couple people that we're talking to about becoming a pod as this thing kind of, you know, hopefully grows, you know, as we come post-COVID and all the different types of things and schools start to open again. We're already having the conversations about what is it going to look like to get back on campus? How are we going to re-engage? Because we know students are hungry. They want us back in schools. They want to be back in schools. And so we're just kind of preparing ourselves for that and perhaps the growth that could come quickly as a consequence. And so, yeah, we're super excited. There's Alex, there's Brianna, Adam, Chris, John, who's the founder. So he's the originator of the Real Talk idea. And he kind of handed it off to me because, you know, he felt like he was a little bit older and he needed a young guy to run the thing. You know, I feel like I'm getting old now. So I'm like, hey, Alex, I hope you're ready.
Hey, so Jordan, let me ask you this, and I think you just alluded to it. You know, students want to be back together. They want to be engaged. They want to be on campus. You know, I feel as if as we've gone through, you know, this unprecedented is one of those words that's kind of almost worn out time. A lot of folks making a lot of directional decisions that affect a lot of young adults. And I think there's a great risk there that all those directional decisions are made without a lot of consultation or like you say, a chance to just listen to them. What do they think? What do they feel would be the very best for them? And I know you're having those dialogues, those conversations. What as a percentage or momentum, you know, where would you say that Gen Z in general is at?
Yeah, I think Gen Z in general, and Alex, you can speak to this as well, is tired. They're fed up of the situation and they want it to be over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason for that is that we don't listen to them. And so I think there are decisions that you can make for people in certain situations if you're willing to listen. You see what I'm saying? And so I think what happens is a lot of times we just tell Gen Z, because they're teenagers, hey, shut up and do what we say, as opposed to let me be present with you. Let me enter into how you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're seeing, and then let me present like, hey, I'm sorry, but this is what we're going to have to do. I think people take things much better when you do that. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, we see it right now with, you know, schools going back into session, right? And the whole AIA sports thing and just kind of the voting around that's been happening. For those that don't know, you know, AIA voted to cancel winter sports and then, you know, not letting them back in, and certain school districts closed right at the beginning of the semester for like the first 2 weeks. I'm out in Chandler, so that's kind of the situation out here with the schools. And actually coach soccer at Perry High School, and one of the things that the players have to do is they have to wear masks. And I asked them one day, I was like, hey, how do you guys feel with everything going on? and they said, we don't care. We just want to play soccer. We haven't played soccer in 3 months. Like we just want to play. What about school? They're like, we just don't care anymore. We don't want to have the conversation about the masks on versus masks off or COVID. We just want to be able to do things because life really sucks right now. I mean, it was 3 months for them since they've had a soccer game. And then before that, I think in the summer, I think there was about 4 or 5 month period, maybe even longer, where they couldn't even play sports either. So these kids are just fed up, and no one's listening to them, right? It's the AIA, by themselves decided to make that vote, and then people protested and they got sports back in. But yeah, Gen Z is frustrated because they are not being heard.
Yeah, I had the chance last night, Alex, to talk to one of the members who represents a school within that AIA conversation. The members were virtually unanimous. Look, the kids need to play, they need to go. And I know there was a segment of the AIA that is the sports medicine side of it that really seemed to carry the day, that they kind of carried it. But it was, it was good. I thought that the community as a whole, the students and those involved had a chance to kind of make their voice heard after the fact. But hey, what about a world where we can, seek that information in advance, where we can talk about it before we make directional decisions and not have to have an uprising, rather just a collaboration? Doesn't that sound like a better program, Alex?
Yeah, 100%, but obviously, as we can see with everything going on in society, that's not happening.
So what do you do, right? There's things you can control and things you can't control. And I like that you're, what you're hearing from your athletes on the team that you work with is, look, it just doesn't matter anymore. We don't care about all those details. Let's lace them up and let's play. That's what we're here to do. And so healthy, so important to get to do that, and thankful for guys like you that'll take the time to invest and be there and be present for them, to listen and say, all right, well then let's do it. Let's go play, So if you're tuning into the Beacon today, we are just really grateful that you have decided to listen to this program. We're honored to have Jordan Francis and Alex Martinez with Real Talk on the program, together with my co-host, Jeff Blake. I'm Steve Woods, and we're grateful that you are listening in, and so honored that you've chosen to spend some time with us today. In this next segment, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Gen Z. And for those that may not know, kind of what defines Gen Z and how can we that aren't a part be helpful in promoting their success. So we'll talk about that in the next segment. Hope you'll tune in.
The Beacon is presented by Phoenix Christian, a school celebrating excellence in education since 1949. Learn more at phoenixchristian.org.
Hey, welcome back to the Beacon, sponsored by Phoenix Christian Preparatory School. Glad to be on air at 960 The Patriot. If you're tuning in today, you picked a great program to listen to, and we just welcome our guest, Jordan Francis, Alex Martinez from Real Talk. Also have in studio Jeff Blake. Hey, so Alex, tell us a little bit about how you and Jordan first met, and give us a little background on you personally and how long you've been in the Phoenix area.
Right on, yeah. So I'm born and raised a Phoenix native. When I was in 8th grade, I had the privilege of going to live in Mexico a year with my grandma in Guadalajara, Mexico. So that was a super awesome experience. And I think that, weirdly enough, that time and that start, I think, was what started to trigger eventually what it would be to meet Jordan. Because my grandma was a believer. No one else in my family was. So I go over to Mexico. I go to a Holy Spirit-filled church. I see friends get healed. I'm just seeing crazy stuff happen, and I come back to the United States to my dysfunctional household, and high school was pretty rough. Did not go the right way. Just chasing girls and partying and smoking weed and stuff, like just things that I shouldn't have been doing. And so I eventually get a scholarship to go play soccer in New York. I take it, but I come back a month later because just the situation didn't work out. And then for about a year, I was just lost, having these crazy experiences. One time, I was with my friends. I basically just, got high. And at that point, I knew God was real, because I started I saw the spiritual realm. That did not go well. And at one point I could hear God's voice just telling me, what are you doing? So then it was almost like God took me out of my own body. I looked down at myself. I was looking at myself from a third perspective, and I could see spiritual, like literal spiritual warfare happening. And then before you know it, I just see a bunch of fire coming at me and someone on a horse getting in front of it and blocking it. And then at that moment, I knew God was real and I needed to start doing something. So about 9 months later, I met Jordan at a college Bible study group that I was going to at Mesa Baptist Church. And we built a good connection. And probably a month later, I gave my life to Jesus. So Jordan was there through the process, and he's been in my life ever since. And that was almost 5 years ago. Almost 5 years ago? Wow, yeah, it's been a long time. So that's how I know Jordan.
Well, for those of us that aren't a part of Gen Z, I can tell you time just continues to travel pretty fast, man. And what a cool testimony of God's pursuit, of you, and how awesome it is to think of the seeds that were being planted in that 8th grade year in Guadalajara with your, God-loving grandma who, like you said, he exposed you to the gospel, the truth, the Holy Spirit, and the church, and how before probably you ever realized that was going to become important when you get to meet Jordan later in life. So tell us, man, a little bit. You're the lone guy on this program who represents Gen Z. Gen Z, help us that those of us that aren't a part know. First of all, just by definition, what does that mean, and then maybe by characterization, what are some things that we should know, because we're all going to interact with this segment of our culture and our community, and I think most of us want to be better at being a good listener and valuing people at every age and segment of life. So help us out.
Yeah. So from my understanding, I think if you are a Gen Zer, that means that you're born. Different people define it different ways. I've seen it everywhere from you were born 1999 to 95, all the way up to I think 2010. I think maybe a little. Maybe a little older than that, so maybe 2009, 2008. I think one of the main things that the characteristics of Gen Z defines them is, pretty much having technology since they were very young. But at the same time, I still remember my dad having a beeper. Right. I still remember I still remember having a house phone, right? Very vividly. But those are things that, that I still haven't. But growing up with technology is just going faster and faster. So I think for us, it's technology. It's also being the generation that's the most connected, but also the most disconnected, because we have had to learn how to navigate social media ourselves. And we have had to teach other people to navigate social media, right? So there hasn't been this, I never had to talk with my dad about social media, right? Because he didn't, he couldn't have that conversation with me because or technology in general, because technology to him as well was new. And I think as well, that another thing that defines Gen Z is the fact that Gen Z cares about issues that are happening in the world. I think that's a big one. And I think that's something that we've definitely seen these last probably 4 years in society. We've definitely seen Gen Z take a stance when they feel like injustice is happening.
So let's ask a question then with regard to all of that. Those are things that I think, the technology piece is something that most people would probably presume just based on age. It's fun to watch my 7-year-old granddaughter, hanging out with her great grandmother, playing a certain game on a phone or having a FaceTime chat or doing some things. It's pretty cool to see that happen. So the technology piece is there, that connectivity without being really connected is something obviously that's being learned to navigate. What are some of the risks that exist for a Gen Z? Or let's say I got tons of information coming at me.
Yeah.
How do I filter that and know, hey, this is truth or this isn't truth, or is there an absolute truth, or how do I figure out what's real and what isn't?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that came to mind when you said that was, I think that the biggest danger for Gen Z that they have with social media and technology is that that gives them the option to lose their innocence at a very young age, right? The idea that these kids can be innocent anymore is pretty much done. I see kids nowadays, I see them in schools, and they all act older than they are now, right? I think on the positive side, I think this generation is smarter than even some kids, my generation, right? Even I think I'm an older Gen Zer, so I may have a couple of things kind of on the millennial side, but the younger kids are smarter at the younger ages because they have the technology. But on the other end, right, it can damage them for the rest of their lives because they can see things and experience things that they'll never be able to unsee. So I think those are the main ones. I think the truth part, I think really comes into relationships that they have in their lives. If they have any relationships with people around them, right? Whether it's their parents, their friends, a mentor, we have to help guide them through those questions. We can't necessarily just keep pushing them and telling them, oh, this is the truth, right? We need to ask them what's going on in their lives and just help them just walk life through them, right? Give them the options of the doors.
Hey, well, if you're listening in, you got some good info coming at you. Come back in this next segment. We're going to talk about trust and truth as it relates to Gen Zs. Thanks for listening to The Beacon.
The Beacon is made possible by Phoenix Christian and listeners like you.
Hey, well, welcome back to The Beacon. We're going to just jump right into it in this segment. Alex, we were just talking, about how technology kind of defines this Generation Z and also, how they're just exposed to so much information and just how all of us are at risk for getting a lot of information and not having a really good, filter for what's true, what's partially true, what isn't true at all, and the risks that go with moving forward. But for all of us that are not Generation Z but have a heart and a passion that God's given us for a young person in our life. I mean, if you're listening today, listen up to this segment because Alex is about to tell us, how to earn enough of a platform to provide some guideposts and to promote the success of that Gen Z student or family member or kid in your life. So Alex, let's build on what we were just talking about and help us know how we can promote the success of the next generation to be better than we ever dreamed they could be.
Yeah. I think first off, I think we need to meet them where they're at, right? So, what does that look like? Does that look like you watching a TV show that they're watching with them, just doing something simple, right? That they know that you care about them. And then also, I think there's certain issues, right, that everyone has close to them, right? And one of the reasons why we do these conversations the way we do is because we know we're going to always hit on something. Maybe it may not be, this week maybe be depression, the next week maybe anxiety, the next week maybe friendship, right? We're going to hit them somewhere where they're hurting, and when we hit them with that topic of where they're hurting at, all we're doing is just asking them questions and asking them how they're feeling about the topic. I'm not telling them at all my opinion until I earn their trust, right? And we do that towards the end. So I would recommend someone to have a conversation with a Gen Zer, but don't tell them anything. Just ask them questions. Just seek to understand what they're saying. See where they're coming from. It doesn't matter if you think it's dumb or what's going on, but just keep pressing in, keep asking them questions. Let them know that you care about their feelings, whether you feel like their idea of truth is right or wrong. What they need to understand is that you care about them and their feelings, and that their feelings are true. Their feelings are real. And then after that, you can start to navigate, how you want to handle that conversation, where you want to take it, how you want to express to them that, hey, if you believe this, in a couple, this could hurt you this and that way, and I think at the end of the day, Gen Z wants someone that they can trust to talk about these issues with. they don't necessarily just want to go to social media all the time and just post about it, or, because someone who's famous said something, right? They don't just want to always believe that that's true, but that's the only influence that they're having in their life. So at the end of the day, they're going to listen to those people that are accepting what they're feeling and what they're believing.
And I really appreciate that. And if I've learned anything, I've taken away anything from the conversations we've been fortunate to have with Jordan on the program, it's what you just outlined, Alex, is that, they want somebody with some skin on that's in front of them that they can touch and see and be with, who cares enough to put whatever agenda we have for them aside and just listen. What you said is a great takeaway for our listeners, that regardless of what is absolutely true or not, their feelings, their emotions, their experience is 100% true for them and to them. And until we listen to that and validate them by listening without trying to fix anything or redirect them, until we do that long enough to establish that trust and that care relationship, I mean, we might have the greatest solution possible for them. They're never, ever going to hear it until they've been heard. Am I getting your message correctly?
Yeah, 100%, man. We have to care. We have to genuinely care about them. We have to care about the things that they care about. We have to care about their feelings and emotions. And until we do that, then we won't be able to help them. And once you truly care about them, you'll be able to help them.
Well, and I'm an old dude, and I've been around a lot, and I've had a chance to make a lot of mistakes. But one of the things I think I've learned through those mistakes and through some people that have poured into me is that there's just zero ways, none, not one way to value somebody more than to genuinely listen. Yeah. To just focus in and really listen to them. That's just, it's not a tool. It's not a manipulation. I think it's quite frankly how we were designed before the fall.
Yeah.
And so really appreciate that, Jeff. Give us some insight based on your perspective and the time, what you're hearing and what you're seeing, and then wrap us into this next segment, because we're at the tail end of segment 3 here.
Hey, you bet. 25 years in education, there's no greater gift you can give a kid than to listen and to be there and be present for him. I'm really excited to learn where Real Talk's going next. In this next segment, you're going to want to tune in. They have vision, new ideas, and PC is just so excited to be a part of it.
Phoenix Christian believes strongly in its rich history and bright future, now equipping students from pre-K through 12th grade. Learn how you can help continue its legacy of Christ-centered education at phoenixchristian.org/support. You're listening to The Beacon, presented by Phoenix Christian.
Hey, we want to welcome you back to The Beacon today, and we want to tell you that this topic that we're talking about today is so incredibly important and relevant for the sake of the future of the world. I mean, like, this is so critical and so important that there probably ought to be a podcast ongoing that talks about this very subject. Jordan, I think there might be. Could you tell us a little bit about where people could hear more about what we're talking about today?
Yeah, so we have a podcast, the RLTK podcast. You can find it on pretty much any podcasting platform. And we basically just get together and have conversations about things that are happening in our world. And we have guests on who are in the Gen Z space in many different forms and fashions. So parents, teachers, coaches, therapists, all different types of people doing all different types of work to get their perspective on what's happening with this generation and how we can connect with them, how we can build deep, meaningful relationship, how we can have conversations that matter with them, and ultimately how we can bring our faith to bear on their world, our world, and doing things together. So yeah, you'll find it on any major podcasting platform. Check it out. We're about to go record next week in the studio for the next month, all of our podcasts, kind of getting back into this year, reflecting on last year, thinking about what's going to happen in 2021, and then talking about some things that we think are important to engage at the beginning of the year. So we're super excited.
Well, thank you guys for what you're doing. It means so much to all of us. And, if you're listening to the program today and this has piqued your interest, and you've done you're self-aware enough to realize that we could all improve in the way that we listen and how we communicate and build relationships, and especially with this segment that's so critical to our future, then check out the Real Talk podcast. Hey, Alex, we were talking off air a little bit about kind of that one thing, that most important thing that we really want listeners to have a chance to take away from our conversation today. And I want to invite you to share that with the audience, if you would, please.
Yeah. So, I'm a person who has a lot of friends that come from different backgrounds and believe different things. And I think that's important, especially when you're working with Gen Zers. And obviously when I'm having these conversations with Gen Zers, everyone has their own opinion on stuff, which is amazing. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and I think I learned this specifically with one friend who we see completely different on a lot of issues, is that we're so close. Like, we're closer than we think we are to reaching people, right? We're closer to reaching those Gen Zers. The issue sometimes just comes, right? Like, our outcome of the answer is different, right? To the solution of the problem, but we both care about issues, right? So I think one of the biggest thing that I see is that, Gen Zers and their parents specifically, or their influencers, they see completely different on different issues, right? Different generations, they grew up different, believing different things. Gen Z gets to see, everything on social media. So a lot of the times there's a tension, right, on social issues, on religious issues, et cetera, et cetera. And just what I guess it's an encouragement that I want to say is that we're close, because when you start to find out more about them, they care about these issues. And at the end of the day, what would it look like for us to love them more, right? When they say that they don't agree with us, because we're this close to reaching them.
Yeah. What if that relationship that we're all thinking of in our mind as we have this conversation was one that was built on a confidence that there's nothing you can say, there's nothing you can do that's going to make me love you any more than I do already, or any less than I do right now? I mean, isn't that a pretty good example of the kind of love that I think Jesus probably talked about when he said, love God and love others? When he gave us that, boil it down to why do we make it so complicated? Like you said, we're so close on so many of the issues. We all care about them. And if we believe that the outcome or a solution to a crisis or a problem is slightly different, it doesn't change the fact that we have that common concern, that common care. Let's focus a little more maybe on what we do have in common than the 90% of our concern versus the 10% of whatever solution we might propose as the outcome. And Jordan, again, I'm so grateful to you guys and so thankful for the way in which God's taken your availability and is using it on the lives of young people. And certainly Phoenix Christian is an organization over many, many years and over many, many different generations and kinds of generations and titles of generations, where the one common denominator is that God weaves his way through the lives of those that we get a chance to interact with. Let's talk a little bit about how, at this time, there's an intersection where God has aligned our paths, and he's allowed them to cross at just the right time. Jeff, talk a little bit about what God's doing with Real Talk, with Jordan's involvement at CCV and Phoenix Christian. Let's touch on that.
This is a really exciting time. Jordan's mentioned his buddy John Eisenring, and Jordan and I, we've had an opportunity to walk around our campus a bit and explore. Jordan and John had an incredible vision for continuing to impact our city with their fellow folks like Alex, speaking into our schools, development of curriculum. And Phoenix Christian has a unique opportunity, Jordan, here to operate as a hub, a home base. And selfishly, for the benefit of our students, we believe in Real Talk. We endorse Real Talk to give you a platform here with our students to speak into their spiritual formation, and then branch out into our community from there. Jordan, let's just dream here a little bit and let the listener listen in as we explore these concepts.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited because I think Phoenix Christian is this very unique space where God is doing this incredible work. And I think part of that is the direction that Phoenix Christian decided to take a few years ago in becoming a more missional school. And so what that's meant is that there are these students from all different types of creeds and colors and backgrounds, and socioeconomic strata that are engaged in this school now. And as a consequence, they're all coming together trying to figure out how to follow Jesus. Some know him, some don't. And it's just this beautiful mix of people, right? And I think of Revelation, all different tribes, tongues, nations, creeds, right? And so obviously that's my heart. I want to be in that part of the city. I want to be in a diverse space. And we just really want to enter in and begin to look at what does it look like to connect with kids from all these different types of spaces and backgrounds in different parts of the world that have different understandings of existence, and then bringing them all together underneath the banner of Christ, helping them all understand the gospel and being like formed into God's likeness, and then being sent out to do his redemptive work in the world, right? Because we're not just about people getting this gold ticket to go to heaven, but we're about people being transformed by the Spirit and going out and building the kingdom of God. And then what does it look like for us to build the kingdom of God at PC? I think there are a lot of, specifically with Gen Z, there are so many opportunities for them to do so many impactful things in the world that honestly don't involve going to college. Like, they have the ability to start a business on their phone through social media. Who's training them to do that? Why aren't we teaching these kids to start nonprofits and start businesses that are doing social good? Because that's what they want to do. They want to do social good. Like, this generation, there's a study that came out that said they're the least prayerful generation. Why is that? Is it just because they don't care, or is it because they're tired of people they're tired of comments that say thoughts and prayers while there's tragic things happening? Oh, my school got shot up, thoughts and prayers. Oh, this building got blown up, thoughts and prayers. No, let's go do something. And so we need to prepare and equip this generation to do something. And we're hoping that PC can be an example to the city, to the nation, to this part of the country of what can happen when a Christian school takes in kids that may or may not believe, teaches them the gospel, and then gives them the tools to go out into our world and make a tangible, real difference.
Steve, I think you can catch the excitement there. The vision and the encouragement, and that is everything that we want to tap into. And I can't help but connect to a point that Alex made earlier. It's just been haunting me ever since he made the comment that this younger generation is far more prone to an early loss of innocence, and to provide a sanctuary, a place, a listening ear, an open heart to meet a young person where they're at, help them to identify what they've processed, and to help them to chart a path forward. And not only for an individual and personal reconciliation and personal redemption, but I want to applaud that this generation is pursuing ways for societal redemption and to be the salt and light that the Lord called us to be. And this is what education is about: empowering kids and not being afraid to be innovative and reinvent ourselves, and recognize that there's new platforms and new ways to reach kids and give kids new places to stand and grow. So we believe in that, Jordan. We're excited about that. And I just want to applaud and encourage and let you know we're wholeheartedly in this, and we're eager to take next steps with you.
Yeah, man, we're excited. We're really excited to just get out there and really go deep with these students. And I think about what Alex said about innocence as well. And this reality that there's this quote in this book by Justo Gonzalez. He's a Latin theologian, and shout out to Alex for putting us on Justo. He says that, and I'm going to talk about it, people of color live beyond the myth of innocence. And what does he mean when he says that? He says that, like, for us, we come in with our history and our background and our understanding of the things that our tribes and our countries did before we were born. We understand our heritage. We understand the wars. We understand the tribalism. We understand the cannibalism. We understand, all the different types of things that have transpired. And I think for a lot of kids that walk into PC, they live beyond the myth of innocence too. They might come from a broken home. They might have experienced some tragic things. They might have had to leave their country to come to this country for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? There's all these stories that exist at this school. But the wonderful thing about it is that God is able to enter in. And I think this is the most important thing that we need to understand. And I think we kind of have lost this. Like, our God is an incarnational God, right? He doesn't just talk, but he enters in, right, to people's lives. And so I think what we are guilty of with Gen Z is just talking to them. And we're not entering into their lives like Jesus does, right? Like these aren't just concepts. These are who God actually is. And then he brings who he actually is to bear on our lives. I mean, we believe that God, the Holy Spirit, enters into us and dwells in us. And we're not going to enter into these young people's lives and dwell with them. We're missing the gospel. You know what I'm saying? We're not just missing a generation. We're missing Christ. Do you get what I'm saying? And so if we'll do that, and I know that PC wants to do this, and I think if we do it, we'll see this generation do incredible things, incredibly just things for the sake of the gospel.
Jordan, that's super encouraging. And I just want to applaud and affirm. And if a parent is interested in learning to be more part about our community here at Phoenix Christian, visit phoenixchristian.org. We'd gladly set up a tour, introduce you to the folks that are on the show this morning, introduce you to our amazing teachers and leaders here on this campus, and most of all, the opportunity to introduce you to some of our kids. They're the heroes of the story, and every day is an opportunity to engage with them, celebrate their story, and we get to be the guide with them. And I know that's a vision also of Real Talk. Now, Jordan, let's chat for a second too. Phoenix Christian is proud to host CCV Stars. And Jordan, we got just a little bit of time here. Quickly, what is CCV Stars?
Yeah, so CCV Stars is a ministry of Christ Church of the Valley. It's our sports programs. I obviously work there. I run the campus in the Levine area. And the whole goal behind that is to create an environment where families can come, enjoy sports, and be together. And, you know, it's an outreach opportunity for us. There's a lot of families that aren't necessarily connected to a local church or have a faith that will come into that type of environment and enjoy sports and have relationships built with them. And so now we got that happening at PC, and we're super excited about that.
So to visit ccvstars.com, right?
Correct. That is correct.
Hey, well, we want to thank you for tuning into the Beacon again today. We want a special thank you to Jordan Francis, Alex Martinez with Real Talk. We appreciate Phoenix Christian for being the sponsor of the Beacon. We appreciate you, the listener, for tuning in. Check out other episodes anywhere you get your podcasts. Have a great day in Christ Jesus. Be a good listener. Go find a Gen Zer. Love them a ton. Have a great day.